So we have a Taekwondo belt test at Iron Dragon this Saturday, and I'm going to show you guys and explain the whole process of what I do to get ready for Taekwondo testing. So the first step in the process is going through all of our students and seeing who is actually eligible to test. So for us, this has a lot to do with attendance, and there is a specific belt in each of our programs, the Little Dragons, juniors, and teens and adults, where our students need to start skipping tests. So for Little Dragons, that belt is a solid orange belt. We start skipping them here because we start expecting a lot more of them. They only have 3 more belts in the Little Dragon program at this point. We want them to start showing leadership skills, leading the warm-ups on their own, stuff like that, really standing out in the Little Dragon program to show us that they're ready to go to the juniors. For the juniors and the teens and adults, they are green belts. So this is the teen and adult belt. This is the junior belt. We do advanced belts for the juniors as well. So they get a regular belt and then an advanced belt of the same rank. Our teens and adults just go all the way through solids. So this is technically the same belt, just for the younger ones and the teens and adults. But they both have to start skipping tests at green or advanced green, because this is when we require them to start sparring. The skipping tests thing is also just kind of our quality control. So at that point in the belts, we are expecting a lot more of them. They have more curriculum, a harder form, stuff like that. So we want them to really spend time at each belt and really understand and get their techniques right. We also don't allow people to go for black belt until they're 13. We personally don't want 9, 10, 11-year-old black belts at our school. So it's also kind of to slow that down a little bit and make sure that if somebody who starts with us at 4 years old, they're not getting a black belt at 9 years old. We also test quarterly. So from white belt all the way up to whatever belt I just showed you guys that they have to start skipping tests, they are eligible to test every 3 months. Once they start having to skip a test, they are eligible to test every 6 months. So then I write a list of everybody who is eligible to test. And then I take that list to Louise and a couple of our other instructors and ask them about each individual student, because there's going to be situations where somebody is technically eligible, but they don't know their stuff, or their behavior isn't right in class, or whatever the case may be, that we just scratch them out for that test. So we go through everybody who could test, and then we narrow that list down. Once I get the narrowed down list, I type it up like this. The students' names are on the left side that I'm just blocking out here. And then you've got their belt rank that they're going to next, and then the size, so that I know what belt size to get everybody. We've got 3 tests, as you can see. This is our Little Dragons at 9:30, and then the lower ranking juniors, and then the higher ranking juniors, plus teens and adults. So that is what I do next. So this all happens about a month or so before the test, because then I've got to get all of the testing invitations ready to be given out during class time. So I get all of those ready, and then those get handed out, and we have a little RSVP slip on the bottom that the students have to hand back in to let us know if they are or are not coming to the test. Then I take that list that I showed you guys that says what belts I'm gonna need, and I come back to our belts that we keep in stock and see if we have any already, so that I don't have to buy them. So I'll take out whatever I already have, and that's what was highlighted that you guys saw. So I highlight those to know that I don't have to buy those, and then I'll make a list of what I need to go buy at our supplier. At this time, I also check our board supply to see if I need to add that to the list of things I need to buy at our supplier. We've got the really thin ones for Little Dragons, a little bit bigger for juniors, and then the teen and adult boards. Then a couple of weeks before, I go and buy all of the belts and any other supplies that we need from our martial arts supplier. They're about 40 minutes away from us, so it's really convenient. We don't have to get anything shipped or anything like that. So I go and get our belts. Then the week of the test, I get started on all of the paperwork involved in all 3 tests that we're doing this Saturday. So the first thing is to print off the planner. We have a different planner for each test, Little Dragons, the beginner juniors, and then the advanced. Last year, I went ahead and made set planners for all 4 tests. So this is gonna be the Q4 test, 12:30, so that's the teens and adults, and the older juniors or the more advanced juniors. I say how many students we have, just so that we know, some basic announcements at the start, and then we go through our planner here, and then over to the back, and then the announcements at the bottom. Then I make our staging, which is how they're going to line up. I've made up all of these names, but what I would do is put the name in the box and then what belt they were going to underneath in parentheses. So we use this to line them up at the beginning of the test, but more importantly, to line them up at the end of the test in order of their belts so that we bring the belts out in the same order that they're lined up. So the next thing I do is put them in partners and put them on the floor where they should be. This is gonna be for self-defense and 1-steps. So a lot of thought goes into this just based off of the students themselves. If you're an instructor, you know you want the best pairing. Typically that's not friends together or siblings together. So you want people that are gonna work well together and do a good job. Then I put them in rings for sparring. So I've got one of these spreadsheets made for 3 rings and one made for 4. And that just depends on the size of the test, whether or not we're going to break the floor up into 3 rings or 4 rings. But we have every student go at least twice, and we try not to put them with the same person twice. And then obviously you need to make sure that the same person isn't supposed to be in 2 rings. So make sure that you've got everybody spread out and everything like that. If this is a test where some people are sparring and some people don't have to spar yet, the students that don't have to spar yet, they do something called 2-kick. And say Tom and Luke aren't required to spar yet, they don't have sparring gear or anything, I would put this so that the instructor that's leading the test knows that they're doing 2-kick instead of sparring. Then I fill out everybody's belt certificate with their name, their new rank, and the date of the test. And then I'm gonna sign it here, and then I have to track Louise down to sign all of the certificates here. The last thing I do in the office is put all of the belts in order. So this is where our first lineup comes into play. It needs to be in the order with the rank and the size that the students are going to be standing in at the end of the test. So these are our Little Dragon belts for this test. They're going to be the first ones to get their belts, so I put it on the tray that comes out for the belts. Everything else, the other 2 tests, they'll kind of be like sitting wherever I can find a spot to put them, but they will be in order before the test day so that I don't really have to think much on the morning of the test. But I do that, and then I also get their certificates in order. So these are Little Dragon certificates that are already written out. They are in the same order as the belts, so we can just pull it off the top of the certificate pile. The belts start on the left, and then we can go from there for the ceremony at the end of the test. Then on Friday night, after all the classes are over, we will bring out our tables and put them up here with the tablecloth. I set all of the belts out in order and take a picture of that to put on Instagram because I like to see kind of how many students we had testing for each belt test. And then we also put chairs along the side, and we bring our blue mats out and we put them in the back for parents to sit, so that on Saturday morning we walk in, we don't have much setup to do, we're ready to go. So that is everything I do to prepare for a Taekwondo test. Like I said, we do this 4 times a year: January, April, July, and October. So this is the last one for this year. If your school does anything differently, please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.